Hello, everyone. It's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to Lost in the Wasteland, my weekly interview show where I learn a little bit more about somebody else's perspective on movies. And joining me is filmmaker Tom Goudsmit, who's here to talk about his film, The Three Michaels. Thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, before we jump in to talk about the film, if you want to talk a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get into the film.
All right, cool. Yeah. Well, I'm a filmmaker in England. I'm now in Frome. I used to be in London and out, and I make mainly documentary
Mhm.
film, mixture of, I guess, like independent feature docs to a bit of kind of mainstream TV and a bit of, I guess, a lot of digital kind of
Okay.
content, web only. Could be docs or other kind of emotional kind of films and stuff. So, yeah, so that's what I
Awesome.
that's what I do.
But yeah, so let's dive in a little bit. If you'd like to tell the audience a little bit about your film, The Three Michaels.
Okay, yeah, sure. So Three Michaels is a feature documentary that follows three Michael Jackson tribute artists on a path to of discovery, and
Hmm.
they go to LA to try to become famous. They're following their idol and hero, Michael Jackson, and they are different eras of Michael Jackson.
Hmm.
So you've got like the 90s Mike, 80s Mike, and the early 80s. Um, and they are they 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 go on a journey to LA basically. They live in the kind of Bay Area. I met them out there, and they were going on this trip, and then I kind of went with them, and the tops they kind of got kind of chewed up by the LA experience and kind of spat
Yes.
out. And as this is happening, there is um the news of Michael Jackson's allegations kind of ramping up and
Hmm.
building up until the release of Leaving Neverland. And ironically, on the day that we're doing this, yesterday, Leaving Neverland 2 came out. Um, but I'm not going to do a sequel. I'm
There you go.
definitely done. Definitely done.
But I know one thing that was very interesting to me is how did you get involved in this project and wanting to follow them along on this journey?
Yeah, well, I was in San Francisco on another working kind of on another doc, but a bit more like behind the scenes. And I had my camera, and I was just staying in the kind of tourist area in San
Hmm.
Francisco, Fisherman's Wharf, if you know, where you get a lot of street performers. So I would,
Yep.
on my commute, a bit, I would see different street performers. You know, there was the magician and the guys spraying and the people climbing the ladders
Hmm.
and there were these three Michael Jackson tribute artists who were dancing, and it kind of caught my eye. I used to like Michael Jackson. I'm kind of that generation when he was the biggest superstar
Yeah.
ever. And um, yeah, so I ended up just like chatting to them one day, and then we kind of filmed a bit, and I made a little short film of it, like a 15-minute thing,
Hmm.
and that kind of had a good reaction. Played it a few places, and then I stayed in touch, and then, like I said, they were going to LA on this like 10-day journey of trying to make it big, trying to crack it. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna come. That's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we went along, and all these things happened that I had no idea would happen. These
Hmm.
things out of our kind of control in a good way. But there were some good things and bad things. Missed some things. Um, and I had a great time and tried to
Awesome.
kind of capture that on the film. Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Well,
that's
and
how.
it's definitely a story about like chasing your dreams and sometimes having those sobering moments where you're just like, am I really cut out for this or being able to be successful? Were there any elements of their story that really spoke to you through your journey as a creative and making your films?
I mean, I guess I've seen a lot of the times people um, have dreams or whatever obscure, artistic thing, and maybe have to get a job at some point and like
Hmm.
start working behind a desk and like, paying the bills and having some security and having to um, give that up.
Yep.
And and I could imagine maybe someone meeting these guys, and maybe this is says more, and like feeling, I don't know, judging them as being like, because their clothes aren't the best and
Hmm.
their routine's not the most polished, and kind of look at, and their cars aren't so great, but they will know that they gave their all, they followed that dream, um, and they will have no regrets, I guess. When you watch it, you know it's probably not going to work out for all of them.
Hmm.
At the beginning, they're not going to end up in a Michael Jackson house being, like that.
Yeah.
They're a bit deluded, in that sense. But I think you're rooting for them all the time, and I like to think that we, take their side and we are following their journey.
Well, and I think there's a couple of really impactful moments as well in terms of especially that moment where they meet with this professional who has been a tribute artist and has worked with a bunch of tribute artists. And it's a pretty sobering kind of conversation of like more of like a reality check of like there's a lot that needs to go into this to really like get up to that next level. And I know that scene felt so impactful, and especially towards the end where the your film has to confront that point of like these young men idolizing this figure and not the greatest things coming out about this person. And how important was it for you telling this story to be able to have that piece where it's like these young men really had to confront, like, hey, this is somebody, I dress up as this person and these things are coming out? Because obviously that's a lot more challenging of a moment for them along this journey. But how important was it for you to be able to get that on film and have some kind of conversation with them about that?
That's a great question. Yeah, that was crucial. So basically, I went to LA, like I said, and then
Mhm.
I think we did one other little short follow up, and then that was it. And I kind of we edited the film, and we were nearly done. And then Leaving Neverland came out, and because there was there was things that happened before that, but there was
Yeah.
nothing kind of as like um earthquake kind of
Mm.
hitting kind of thing. And then so then I was like, okay, I kind of went through the 7 stages of grief. I was like, this is going to kill the film.
Yeah.
And then you slowly kind of get better. And then eventually you get to a point where, you know what? Okay, we can make this actually make it. I need to make it better. I
Yeah.
need to find a way to twist it. And 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 also like, yeah, we couldn't not cover it. I just don't I think you couldn't be honest, the hardcore Michael Jackson fans would I could have easily made a film that didn't talk about it.
Yeah.
That would have been really popular with the hardcore Michael Jackson fans, which they're not like the huge, but there's a significant amount of people. I don't, they generally don't like this film, because it it confronts the allegation and it doesn't pass judgment. Like it's not, I'm not there to do that, but I'm not going to say, I'm not going to just ignore it. I'm not
Yeah.
just going to pretend it's not happening. And so I then had to go and do another shoot where I asked them to be up for watching the film because they were kind of always kept their head in the sand
Yeah.
and kind of that kind of thing. Understandably, I mean, if this is your idol and your image, and this is how you can help this having this persona helps you connect with other people.
Yeah.
Maybe when they're feeling like, Quentin says he was lonely at school,
Mhm.
he says it, they all have kind of connection issues. So it it you're right, we had to do it, and I think we covered it as good as we could, basically.
Well, and I feel like, especially because that was certainly while I was sitting and watching the film, thinking, like, this is going to be very interesting. Like, obviously, these young men idolized Michael Jackson. And that's a hard person to idolize at this point because there was so much talent. And then there's this big looming cloud. And I was really wondering how the film was going to tackle that if it was. And I do think that watching the film, it puts it in their court. It presents like this came out. And I remember when this happened. And this was such an earth-shattering thing for somebody who was idolized as one of the greats of the music industry. And I appreciate how your film presents it, and then it puts it in these three young men to process it. And it's not like you as the filmmaker are making the judgment. You present this, and then you give them each a perspective, opportunity to share their perspective on it. And I think to varying degrees, you see how each of them has processed it or hasn't processed it. And I think that's a very interesting and compelling element to the film. And it's interesting that how your film evolved, where it's like, oh, well, we have the film, but now we have this that we have to confront or make that kind of decision. And I appreciated the film for going there and at least having because the film's about that. It's about these three young men and having
Mm.
them and their perspective shown on this event that happened and this news that came out. But no, I thought it was a very interesting story of, chasing that dream. And we're all human beings. We all have dreams. We've had things that like at some point, some of us have, taken the exit and haven't chased them, or some of us are hustling and trying to make it work, and some of us are like
Mm.
really living that dream. And I think it's something really relatable you could enjoy. But I always like to ask, so Tom, for those in the audience, what's the one reason why you feel like people should really go check out your film?
Um, wow. I would say the producer he called it like a popcorn doc,
Mhm.
and I don't know but I think the idea is that it's kind of in real time. The main part, once you get to the beginning of the intros, it kind of flows quite quickly in real time, and you'll
Yep.
feel like you're on the journey with them, and you're rooting for them, and all these things happen. And I think it's kind of it's not like an overly kind of earnest doc. And obviously, there's good, we need all kinds of docs. There's
Yep.
not loads like this out there that I think are kind of a bit comedy, a bit quirky, and a bit kind of go along. And I think it's a fun watch, which I think
Well,
we can
and
all do.
yeah, and it is a fun time going on this journey with them, and they're a trio of fun, interesting young men that really obviously love what they do, and you get to enjoy that journey with them on this bit of a road trip kind of film. And
Yeah, yeah.
what's this like 84 minutes? It's a nice, lean little film to go check out for sure. And Tom, where can people go check out the Three Michaels?
Yeah, it's on Amazon Prime
Hmm.
in the US and the UK.
Okay,
So otherwise, yeah, it's not. Otherwise, you got a VPN or something so far away, but it's available in those countries.
there you go. And that is where I got to check it out, for sure. But I appreciate you getting a chance to talk about the film with me, Tom. And now, time to learn a little bit more about you as somebody who loves film. I always like to start this off by asking everybody's favorite question, sarcastically or not. What's your favorite film?
So, well, what comes to my mind? I'd say like Pulp Fiction. It's probably my favorite film. It's the kind of one that you can just watch over and over again.
Yeah,
You're kind of looking forward to the next one. Yeah, I just love that film. But I'd also get like Spinal Tap, quite
nice.
high. Um, Raging Bull. Like I also really love Fight Club. What's
Mhm.
that? So like I don't know, quite a mix, I guess.
Well, and of course, like Pulp Fiction and Fight Club and Raging Bull are some really classic films from really impactful filmmakers. And I appreciate you mentioning Spinal Tap because I absolutely love that film. And I have I'm cautiously optimistic about Spinal Tap 2 coming out, which they just dropped that teaser for.
Yeah.
Because like one, Rob Reiner had an insane streak of films from the 80s into the 90s. And just the creative trio of Christopher Guest and Michael McKean and Harry Shearer. It's just they're endlessly fun to watch. And this film, which I think Spinal Tap's maybe like 85 minutes, and it's the insane amount of laughs that you get in this short period of time. And also like it's such a fun like peek into like the music industry and stuff like that of this like aging band for sure. So Spinal Tap is great. Now, what's your earliest memory of going to the movies?
Oh wow. Um, Earliest memory of going to the movies. I guess yeah, it was. I mean, I was in about in the 80s, so
Mm,
just a lot of classic kind of sci-fi came
mhm.
out then, and um, I quite like. I mean, there was a lot of great kids films like The Goonies
Yeah.
and Short Circuit and like films like that. I was watching a lot of a lot of Spielberg kind of
Hmm.
stuff, I guess. Um, I don't remember watching many documentaries.
Hmm.
I don't remember that being like ever in the cinema. Don't think. Um, but yeah, so it's funny. The ones I talk about more are feature films, but I'm not interested in making
Hmm.
feature drama. I just want to make docs. So that's what I think I remember more my kind of documentary journey,
Hmm.
I guess,
Which is
because
fair for sure.
yeah, that's what I'm kind of watching more of now.
Hmm. But obviously growing up in the 80s, the Goonies were quite the thing. And certainly I was a 90s kid growing up, and that still continued into the 90s. And I can't tell you how many times I've watched the Goonies. So it's such a and it's such an impactful film that people are just still making movies just like the movies today
Right.
who grew up in the 80s and are being able to chance like I like Stranger Things would not be a thing if like the
Ah,
Goonies and stuff like that didn't exist for sure.
really.
I have a sinking feeling I might know what your answer to this is, but what's your favorite genre of movies?
I mean, yeah. So it is definitely dogs,
Yeah.
but yeah. But I mean, also I love like thrillers and comedies and stuff. But I definitely watch other stuff, but not. I don't watch that much. I don't watch that much.
Mhm.
But I I watch a lot of feature docs, I guess. I
Which
like that form very
mhm.
much.
Well, and I feel like for most moviegoers, I feel like documentaries is something that it's so funny because it's like I feel like there's a lot of people who watch a lot of documentaries, but if you said it's like, do you like documentaries? I'm like, I don't really. It's like, but true crime documentaries are so popular amongst people my age or younger. It's like my wife will just keep watching nonstop documentaries on YouTube on loop and stuff like that.
Wow.
But
Mm.
it's obviously it's a very specific kind of
Yeah.
documentary that people are really connecting with and says something about society where people just nonstop want to watch stuff about murder and stuff like that. But it's the same reason why shows like Law and Order have been on for like 30 something
Right.
years. So there's something striking that curiosity, but there's so many awesome things that you can do with documentaries. And I work in education, I work at a college. So like I love learning things and being able to
Mm.
watch documentaries. And it's the because like any kind of narrative film, even if it's historical, is obviously going to be taking plenty of licenses with what happened. And generally, like you can learn so many things from documentaries. So I do appreciate that. Do you have any particular favorite filmmakers?
Oh. Um. David Fincher.
Mhm.
Love David Fincher. Um. But then like documentary people, Chris Smith, I like a lot. You know him?
I don't recognize the name right away, but
So,
what are some of the films that he?
well, he just recently did the one about Mr. McMahon.
Oh, okay.
Did you
I
see-
I'm a big pro wrestling fan, so I certainly watched that.
I mean, there was so much amazing content there that maybe it wasn't that hard, but like that's well done. Um,
Yeah, because
he,
it looks like he made the Tiger King, uh, or at
yeah,
least was involved in Tiger King
yeah.
series,
Well, he made the late. I think he made the later one,
the later one.
the one about the monkeys. But I think he was involved in Tiger King. Yeah,
Yep.
he didn't do it. But he also made probably my favorite document, one of my favorite American movie.
Hmm.
Have you seen that?
You said American movie?
Yeah,
I don't think I have seen that one. I have Chris's IMDb up here, but
it's an early one.
this is interesting. Documentary about aspiring filmmaker attempting to finance his dream project on low budget horror film. See, that sounds something 100% up my alley because I love behind the scenes stuff about
You'll
film
love
and
it.
stuff like that.
You will
So,
love it. Don't watch the trailer. Just watch it, right? And if you
mhm,
like Three Michaels, because I'd say that one was kind of the one I was kind of going for that kind of vibe
okay.
with it. But that does it much better, and it's hilarious and just heartwarming and like a beautiful doc. And he's gone on to make loads of other different style documentaries, I'd say. He's like the
Yeah,
Stanley Kubrick of the documentary world.
yeah. I see he did the that Wham documentary that came out. And like basically if like a new music documentary comes out, I'm probably gonna try to watch it.
Right,
Um,
right, right.
so that
That's good. That's
definitely
fun, that film. Was Wham big in America? Did you know them?
well, I growing up I did know Wham. I probably knew George Michael more, but
Mm, mm.
like one specific song of Wham that I heard plenty of times growing up.
Right, yeah, of course. Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
must have.
so I think they were at least ones that like made that leap because I know the discourse that's been around like Better Man with the whole Robbie Williams thing. It's just like so many people in the United States are like, "Who's Robbie Williams? Why would I go see a movie about him?" It's just like you watch movies about fake people all the time,
Ah,
and just
so,
because it's about somebody you don't know, you don't want to go watch this movie. Which loved that movie, and it was very creative and very interesting.
yeah.
And not
But
gonna
it's
lie,
better if you know it's better if you know the songs. Oh, it's good if you know that helps if you kind of because I
yeah.
kind of I would know I knew like all those songs really. So
Mhm.
it's a good film though.
I knew none of the songs, but now have been listening to them ever since I watched the movie because there's definitely some ones that like just burrow in there,
Yeah.
and I've
Oh, yeah.
definitely listened to quite a few times since it.
Cool.
But I guess thinking about in front of the camera, do you have any particular actors or actresses that stand out to you?
Um, yeah, any particular actors. Um, there's a lot of good ones out there. But yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, I don't really
Which
follow
is
the
which fair if you watch a lot of documentaries, probably not a whole
yeah.
lot of narrative films, but that's understandable. But I guess is there a particular film that you feel like you could just watch like every day?
Um, yeah, I mean, like it's Pulp Fiction was definitely one. I was a
Mhm.
big Tarantino fan. I could definitely do that. I can't. My kids aren't quite old enough yet. I can share that with them. We're watching Three Amigos quite a lot, um,
Nice.
which is quite. They're just about that age that it's kind of all right. That's fine.
Mhm.
So that one is one I'd quite like to be able to show them um, some more like Jim Carrey stuff,
Mhm.
but they're not. They're just a little bit risky at the moment.
Yeah. Growing up in the 90s, I watched a lot of Jim Carrey. I don't know
Yeah,
how
Dumb
many
and
times
Dumber.
I Yeah.
Could probably watch that over and over again. Oh
Yep.
no, I watched again Tropic Thunder, talking about comedies. That is just perfect. That's everything's perfect in that film.
Mhm. I appreciate Ben Stiller going places with
Yeah.
that movie, and it is like the cast is insane from top to bottom. Like every single person, even like Steve Coogan is like the neurotic
Yeah.
filmmaker who thinks he's
Yeah.
like making the next Citizen Kane and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And of course, like what Robert Downey Jr. is doing is a whole other kind of
Yeah.
level of commitment. And even like Tom
And
Cruise, like
yeah, and the agent. What's the agent? What's his name?
Matthew McConaughey
Yeah,
is
like
so
he.
funny. It's like, Tug, I'm gonna get your TiVo. And it's just like so many actors you would not expect doing
Yeah.
roles like they would in that film.
Yeah.
And like I'm I'm not one to like be like, I need a sequel or a spin-off for this, but like I want to see the Les Grossman movie because I want to see Tom Cruise as that character in a whole entire movie and just the complete nonsense of like running a studio and stuff like that for sure.
Oh,
But
it so needs it. At least, I mean, I guess they couldn't do a sequel, but like that, I think they still had like a healthy budget. They're like, surely that film did well. Why did they not make more of that kind of ilk? I just don't get it. That was just a brilliant
I
film.
it makes me sad that a lot of comedies don't get like we don't get a lot of like big comedies like that,
Yeah.
and a lot of them don't make a ton of money when they come out in theaters, and so many of them go straight to streaming. But there's nothing like sitting in a theater and laughing with a whole entire theater worth of
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
It's a such a
Yeah.
fun experience. Now, what's a film that you connect with because it relates to another interest of yours?
Oh, oh, that's a good one. Um, okay, that I'm going to think about for a second. So, what connection with another interest? Um, I would say I'm quite taken by. I've become a bit obsessed with paddle.
Okay.
It's like it's like it's like a tennis sport.
Hmm.
Um, so, but I can't actually. It's not really anything that's what. I mean, I tell you what. I say what I did see. I saw the BB Files
Okay.
last week, which is a documentary about Benjamin Netanyahu
Yep.
in Israel, and I'm I was born in Israel, I grew up
Okay.
in England, so I mean it's definitely a a subject that I've followed like a lot and been connected to, and I've been there a lot, and I made a film there about both sides and kind of negative education and what
Hmm.
they like, what they learn about each other and how the media kind of informs things. And so I watched that film, and it just blew me away, and it was tough, just like the one that just won the Oscar, No Other Land.
Yep.
I mean, yeah, so that film definitely resonated with me, and I thought it was amazingly well made and
Yeah.
important message.
Both of those films really struck a chord. Like I got to check out the BB Files when it was running, I think, one of its festivals. And
Oh,
then luckily I was able to get a press link for No Other Land because it's been rough them getting distribution here in the United
really?
States for it. And I live in New Jersey, so like I live outside of Philadelphia, New York, and at least they're starting to be able to have theaters who are starting to show
Right.
No Other Land as well. But those were a couple of really powerful documentaries for sure.
Yeah, and I think neither of them you can watch in Israel.
Wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, so it's like you think so in America, I guess it's also hard to get. But in England, it's available on like free on
Hmm.
one of the state broadcasters,
Okay,
so you can watch it.
there you go. Because I know I'm very much into the Oscars and I have a lot of friends who are, and that No Other Land was one of the films that a lot of them struggled to be able to see before the actual show because it just was not playing here
Oh,
at all. So I lucked out with that one and getting a chance to see it. And it's one of the most impactful films that I've watched
wow.
this year so far, for sure. And I guess this will be an interesting question, especially since you watch a lot of documentaries. But I guess I'm going to modify a bit. Is there a movie character or like a subject of a documentary that you feel like you connect with on a personal level?
Um, well, so a character in a documentary. The guy in American Movie.
I was wondering if that was going to be your answer, which that's definitely going on my watch list for
Yeah,
sure, because I
please,
definitely want to check that out now.
please. Let me know what you think.
Absolutely.
I mean, he's definitely on a journey, like a bit like this film, a bit like the Three Michaels. It was, I didn't have a studio, I didn't have anything. We didn't have anything. We just kind of made this film. I had my own camera.
Yep.
I paid for the trip myself. Went out there. It's kind of similar to the guys. You're kind of following a dream. You're trying to
Mhm.
just following your instincts and going for something that you think will be interesting for us and for them and produce something. So that film, I definitely connected with that character who were trying to follow their film art.
Absolutely. Um, I only have a couple left here, but so my second to last question for you is what's a film that you love that you feel like would surprise people?
My friend did a documentary called Ronnie O'Sullivan, The Edge of Everything,
Mhm.
and it's about a snooker player. Um, and it might sound boring because it's about snooker if you don't know much about snooker, which is a game. But it's a brilliant character and it's a brilliant doc, and it's like
Awesome.
it'll surprise you in many ways. So I'd go for that doc. And I just thinking I really like the Joker too. And so don't let people put you off. That might surprise you that it's got bad reviews. But if you like Joker 1, I think there's a strong chance you'll like Joker 2.
Well, and I feel like that's a film that obviously took some creative swings, but like when I see people say like this is the worst film I've ever seen, I'm like, you need to watch more movies.
I
Which
mean, you can't
like
deny it looks amazing. The acting is amazing. The songs are great. Maybe it's not what you were expecting, but maybe that's challenging your feelings in a way that you need to like work out. Like, why is this? I don't know. Like, and also the kind of the messages in Joker 1. That's like it shouldn't just go where you think. You shouldn't just repeat that again. That doesn't really go with the underlying kind of motto of it. It's not fulfilling expectations. It's kind of going against that. And I think that I don't know, I thought it was great.
it's I feel like it's going to be a film that gives some time and space. I think people are going to come around to, but I saw him like there was things about it that I really admired. Was it a little bit messy and getting through what it was trying to say and present? Sure, but it was extremely creative. And I can't, which actually I kind of can't believe. Warner Brothers has an interesting track record of throwing a lot of money at some very big creative swings. And it's one of those kinds of films where I'm like, I can't believe this got greenlit. But like
Mm.
it did, and somebody made it. And people saying
Exactly.
it's like the worst movie they've ever seen is mind-boggling to me. But even just at the bare minimum, Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga
Oh,
are incredible. And
amazing.
and the commitment to like the production design with all the music and their shared delusion that they're going on throughout this film is very
God.
fascinating for sure.
It looks stunning. And like even the sound of him
Mhm.
smoking and like you said, the performances of both of them, like it's just I don't know. I couldn't believe the outrage. I don't
And
know why.
people really hate musicals. And apparently they don't want them in their superhero, their comic book movies. So there you go.
think I've got
But
mad. Oh, I don't like musicals, but I don't go out for musicals, but I don't know, it's just so enjoyable that it's not, and it's not your standard musical. It's not like everybody starts dancing, like the bin man starts shaking his broom around, and like jumping over garbage trucks. It's not
yeah,
that kind of movie. It's just like it's just really well done.
but and then my last question for you, Tom, is what do you love most about movies?
Yes, it's well, to stick with the theme. I love documentaries because it'll take you to a place where you might not know around
Hmm.
about the culture around something or the place or the thing, and it'll kind of suck you in to meet with characters that tell you about it through them or their journey. And I like that part of being, I guess, taken away into a whole new world.
Yeah.
And that's probably the thing that I enjoyed most.
Well, and that's such a awesome thing about movies is that it can teleport you to a different place. And what documentaries do, it's literally taking you to a real place with real people, and that you might never get that chance to connect with those types of people or go to that place. But at least through a documentary, you can
Mm,
learn so much about culture and people and experiences for sure. Well,
mm.
Tom, I really appreciate your time and getting a chance to talk to you about your film and then learning a little bit more about yourself. I always like to wrap up the show as I let my guest ask me a question. So, what would you like to ask the Wasteland reviewer?
Oh my God. I'd ask you, okay, keep the theme. What's your favorite documentary ever?
Oh, I would say I love music documentaries. And it's funny because we were talking about this before I pulled this out. I have my Rush Beyond the Lighted Stage documentary, which I absolutely love because they're my favorite musical artists. But I think the one that speaks to me most personally, and which is interesting because this isn't a feature length documentary, is Italian American from Martin Scorsese. And it's simple. It's just him interviewing his parents about their immigrant experience and being Italian Americans. And I I grew up in a household with my grandparents. And I lived with them for 20 years. My grandfather, both his parents were from Italy. So I grew up in a very ethnically Italian American household. And I remember watching that for the first time. And I watched my first Scorsese film too young because I didn't like I watched Raging Bull when I was like 14. And to me, it was just two Italian guys yelling the F word at each other
Oh,
for 2 hours and stuff like that, which to be fair is true and happens. So like it literally does happen. But rewatching that as an adult, and I went through a whole entire journey of all of his films for one of my shows that I do and realizing that he really speaks to me as an Italian American who
mm.
I grew up in New Jersey, he grew up in New York. We're not that different. And the Roman Catholic upbringing, which permeates that guilt and just permeates
Oh,
everything in your
yeah, right.
experience.
You both
I
love
re-
film.
hmm?
You both love film.
That too. And I remember watching that Italian American documentary and just being like, this is kind of like me sitting here if I got ever got a chance to talk to my great grandparents. And I would have loved that experience. And it just hit on such an interesting and personal level. And their marriage, the two of them have such a fun dynamic together. And each of them have popped up in their son's films. Like
Hey.
Joe Pesci's mom in Goodfellas is Martin
Yeah,
Scorsese's mom, who was
she's
just like,
cooking the like pasta.
let me get you some food at like 10 o'clock at night. And it's a whole
Yeah, yeah,
entire
yeah.
table worth of
Make you
food.
a sandwich. They do like a big
Mhm.
like thing. Yeah, so yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But no, so
Um,
like that was a film that really struck me. And I love its simplicity, where it's like it is just an interview, really. And that's the wonderful thing about documentaries. You can do so much with very little. I even really loved Made in England, the films of Powell and Pressburger that came out last year in the
Mm.
States. And I went to a theater to watch that. So I sat
Wow.
there for 2 hours and 20 minutes of just Martin Scorsese telling me how much he loves Powell and Pressburger's films. And like, I enjoyed Grandpa Marty story time about how great these films are. And that's really what it was. And, intercutting with all of like the scenes from the films, but it was Martin Scorsese basically doing an visual and auditory essay on their films. And that really spoke to me. So I love
Oh,
documentaries. And
yeah.
Martin Scorsese, what I love a lot about him as a filmmaker is, yeah, he's famous for all of these feature narrative films that he's done, but he's made some really great
Mm.
documentaries. And um, I
The,
have, where's my
the Rolling Stones one?
last waltz, which is an incredible concert film that he did, and then his documentary about George Harrison that was on HBO was really impressive too.
Mm.
And that's what's so interesting about him as a filmmaker is like there are no barricades for him on like what he wants to make as a film. Like he'll do documentaries, he'll do feature films. You know, he had Wolf of Wall Street, a 3 hour film, dark comedy about the corruption of corporate life in Wall Street with how many F words and stuff like that. And then his next film was Silence, which was a really impactful religious journey about Jesuit priests and stuff like that. So that's something I can
Mm.
appreciate for sure. But
Yeah.
I guess my actual final answer is Italian American, and that was a really special film for me.
Oh man, well thanks for sharing that. I've
Absolutely.
never seen that one. So I've seen a few of his, but never that one. So
It's like
I'll
50 minutes too. So
right.
it's like one that you could just sit there and appreciate just learning about the Italian American experience and an immigrant story too, and being able to deal with that. But I
Mm.
appreciate your question. And Tom, I really appreciate your time and getting a chance to talk to you about the three Michaels and learning a little bit more about your experience with movies.
Thanks so much. I've really enjoyed it, Shane. It's been
Absolutely.
brilliant. It's been really good.
And hopefully, all of you go out and check out the three Michaels. If you're here in the States or in the UK, check it out on Amazon. But thank you, as always, for tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.